and you're going.
Okay. Can I just start the...
You may just start whenever you want, yep. Sorry.
Okay, so you'll see on the screen when it pops up, when the slideshow goes through. I just wanted to start off by showing you guys a few pictures of the guy I'm going to be talking about today. And with these pictures, I want you guys to see like a reoccurring pattern and what you notice in them. Not necessarily, you know, the colors, the shape, the texture, anything like that, because they all have like a similar theme in it, but notice like more of a message behind or a meaning behind it. So just take a notice of that. But who I'm talking about today is, his name is Keith Haring. He was a pop artist of the 80s. He's more famous now, but he wasn't as famous or taken as a serious artist when he was famous in the 80s. Keith Haring was born May 4th, 1958 in Reading, Pennsylvania. And then he lived in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, which is about 10 minutes from where I live currently right now. He was the eldest of three siblings, Kristen, Kay, and Karen. So all 4 Ks. A couple fun facts too. One of the reasons I picked him was because he was an artist. The second reason is because I'm actually related to him somehow, so I thought it was pretty cool. Like, hey, I'm related to someone, but not really, like, you know, somewhere down the line. He is my grandmother's second cousin. So down the line, I thought it was pretty cool. His father was also a supervisor at a communications firm. So I thought that was pretty interesting because I'm a communications major with an art minor, so I just thought that was pretty cool. As a kid, he was always drawing. He grew up always drawing. He sat down with his dad, who taught him how to draw, and gave him crayons and sat him down and taught him how to draw cartoon characters. His favorite artists, or he was inspired by Walt Disney and Charles Schulz, and he also wanted to work for Walt Disney one day because he loved the characters that he created. So his dad showed him how to draw different shapes and characters, and it just went from that point. Now, growing up in Kutztown, it wasn't the easiest because Kutztown, I know from like being down there, it's a very small conservative town. So, and it's very hard to be accepted. Like, it's hard to express yourself almost because it's a very Dutch town. So Keith went through these phases in his life to try to figure out who he was and to figure out what he wanted to do with his life. So first he started off as a Jesus freak. The second step he went to was he was a hippie and he went across country, hitchhiked, and to make a little bit of money, he sold band shirts such as the Grateful Dead. He also sold anti-Nixon shirts as well. And then after that, after making a little bit of money, he decided to start doing drugs as well. So that threw him off a little bit. And by the time he was a senior in high school, he was like, you know, I finally figured out, like, this is not what I want to do. Art is really my passion. So he quit doing drugs. He was very heavy into it. Quit doing drugs in high school. And then he finally figured out, as he was going through these phases, he decided who he really was, which was an artist. And he also grew with his sexuality as well. He was gay. He turned out to be gay. But that also helped him express himself with his art. So after he graduated high school in 1976, he moved to Pittsburgh to go to school for the Ivy School of Art. And then he dropped out for 2 years and then went to New York where he could really express his artwork. In New York, he started drawing on blank canvases that covered up advertisements, like when he would go on the subways. He took chalk and then he drew about 30 to 40, he drew about 30 to 40 artworks a day. If you see the second picture right there, that was one of the blank canvases that he drew on when he saw him going past on the subway. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. He wasn't favored by critics at the time, so this is one way he got his artwork out there, by drawing on these canvases. He wasn't favored by critics at the time, one, because he was very open with his sexuality, and two, in his drawings were considered taboo, because he would really express issues such as sexuality, and politics, anything that people didn't really talk about at the time, and people didn't like talking about at the time. So he decided that's really what he wanted to do with his artwork. Later in the 80s, he did get AIDS, that's when he really started focusing on doing his artwork to get these issues out there. So he worked with AIDS programs and also did charity work as well. And in 1990, he did pass away at the age of 31 from AIDS. So even though at the time he wasn't favored by critics because of his sexuality and because of the taboo issues that he would really get out there, he made a very big impact on society then and now, and is very big in the art world. So just in conclusion, basically, I would say look up Keith Haring's artwork. It's really interesting, really cool. He was a very interesting guy, and he really got his paintings out there, and a very good meaning behind it too. And also, I did put on WordPress. I found on WordPress there's a Archives Foundation page of Keith Haring. So I followed it on WordPress. So if you guys want to look it up, go for it. It's pretty cool. So, any questions? Thank you.